Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Are you trying to master the game of life without success? There are secrets and strategies to living your best life. We'll share some of them with you on today's show. Take advantage of this series to become an expert at relationships. All relationships. It's time to live the life that you deserve to live. Now, here's your host, Sandra Reish.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish, a show about living your best life. Happy New Year, everybody, first of all, before we go any further. So a new year, and to me, that means a new year, a new you. So topics become extra important at this time of year. It's like everybody takes a gym membership and wants to get fit. Well, let's consider this mental fitness. So Straight Talk with Sandra Reish is always a show about how can you live your best life, best relationships, best nutrition, best dynamics in your family, raising kids. And today, such an important topic because it covers all of those areas, except for maybe nutrition, but it covers everything else, which is conflicts. And conflict coming off the holidays is such a huge topic because when you think about conflict and you think about holidays, sadly, they go together. You're together with people a lot of days in a house, Christmas dinner, New Year's. It sounds so romantic and nice and beautiful, but conflicts happen. So today we're going to talk about how do you deal with conflict, whether conflict is a bad thing. Hint, it's not. Whether conflict in your marriage means you're in trouble. Hint, no. Actually, no conflict in your marriage means you're in trouble, but we'll talk about that. And for this important episode, who else could I invite but the fabulous, brilliant counselor, Melissa Hindley. Welcome back to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. You are quite in-demand counselor who deals with relationships and conflict all the time. So I know you actually, to be fair, you were the person who said to me, you want to do this topic on the show.
I do.
So welcome back, first of all, and tell us why you wanted to do it.
Thank you. Yeah, I love talking about this because I think that it's a lot of, it comes in my office a lot of how do we get through conflict? And actually, it's one of my favorite topics to hear you talk about because it is.
Ooh, I didn't know this.
Yes, and you introduced a huge turn, which I hope we get into today, but a different side of conflict that helped me change my life. So
really? Oh my God! Well, you have to start with that. What was that thing I introduced? And how did it change your life? I'm so excited.
Well, just the biggest piece in the conflict is that it's easy for me to get into the blaming mode.
Right.
And so the biggest piece and what you always talk about is what is your role?
What is your role
in this conflict? So I hope we get into talking about that.
Oh, we are. I guarantee it.
Because that's one of my favorite things to talk about, for hearing you talk about.
Okay, well, thank you. And thank you for bringing that up. And I feel very excited and honored to be here with you because just bringing that up reminds me how many things there are to talk about conflict. Yes. So first of all, if you're listening to the show, you can call in at 1-866-472-5792. So conflict, looking at your role is what you brought up. So I think I'm going to start on that and I'll shoot you some questions on that as well. So first, actually, before we get to that, is conflict inevitable? Like in close relationship, is it like, do we have to have conflict or do good people not have conflicts?
Yeah.
Because some people think that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And in my experience, I think conflict is really, it can be really healthy. And I think that's what it's normal when two people have different ideas, different values, different feelings, different backgrounds, right? Different childhoods, that it's normal in any relationship that there's going to be some disagreement. There's going to be some sort of conflict that comes up. And the problem is that no one teaches us this. No one sits down and says, okay, this is how you deal with conflict, especially as children. They don't teach us this, and it should be taught in schools. But how do we observe, how do we learn this growing up?
Yeah, well, I think that it's so interesting because I am the parent of two children. And first of all, I think a lot of us were brought up with the idea that you shouldn't have a fight in front of the kids, right? Yeah. And so the only way we can learn to have a successful conflict is to actually observe our parents have a successful conflict, which is awkward because if we're at Disney World, I was just at Disney World. If we're at Disney World and my husband and I are having a conflict, there is a discomfort to have that conflict in front of the kids. But by the same token, if they can see that, there can be tension, we talk about it and we resolve it and there's a good feeling afterwards, what do they get out of that, in your opinion? What do you think they get out of that?
Well, once they see the whole evolution of it, that there's discomfort, you're talking it through, and then there's a resolution after it, they learn that first both feelings are important, and it's important to say something, and they see the repair that happens at the end of it. Because if we look at the opposite effect, right, what would be the opposite effect if this didn't turn out where there was a repair? What message would that be sending to the kid?
Well, if there's no repair, it means that conflict is horrible and dangerous and scary. Marriage might end over it. Or if there's never a conflict, but they sense there's tension, because there is tension that comes up, then they figure they have to bury their feelings of anger, which is interesting in our field, because buried can't speak, new year, new you, new Sandra. Buried feelings of anger result in what, Melissa Henley?
Anxiety.
Yeah, that's where our work comes in. So I don't know about you, but I personally do feel it when I'm pushing down my anger, going, oh, I don't want to ruin the day. I start to get like an anxious feeling in my body, because anger needs to be released. Right. Okay, so we want the message to our kids to be that it's okay to have a conflict. Many of us did not grow up with that. My parents, for example, spoke another language, and they did not teach us the language. So we knew they were fighting, but we had no idea what they were saying. So I just didn't know if conflict was okay. And I have to admit, because I've always tried to be honest on the show, and I'm curious about you too, that I still feel very uncomfortable. I think most people do when there's a conflict. I don't like it.
No, as soon as we create tension or anxiety in somebody else, especially when, like you said, as growing up, if we learned that our emotions creates conflict, because what you said is that you've always talked about this, but that children tend to be narcissistic, right?
Yes.
So
you really do listen to what I say. I love this.
I love it. You inspire me so much.
Oh, you're so nice.
So if,
oh my God, thank you.
If children tend to take things, so if we see two parents arguing and there's no resolution, there's no repair, then children start to take that very personally. And so again, that teaches children that it's their fault, that something that they did is what's causing the argument.
Right, good point.
And so what you're saying is that when you don't see that conflict and when you don't get that resolution, it's easy for us to take it really personally. And like in my family too, that, my parents growing up didn't really have any arguments, that they had a couple of...
Oh, really? I was wondering about that.
Yeah, they had a couple. I can maybe name off the top of with the fingers in my hands how many times they had arguments. But and that teaches me that conflict is not okay. So the question that you bring up, most people don't enjoy conflict and arguments because we don't want to create more anxiety in somebody else too.
Right. Okay, so it's normal. What we have so far is it's normal to feel uncomfortable during conflict. Now, you brought up something that, yes, I do feel very strongly about. I live by it. Sometimes I think I may even overlive by it because you can overdo it, which is, and I think it's the first strategy I want to mention here, is that when I'm really angry at someone, like a few minutes after the feeling has exploded in my body, I force myself to not only look at my role, but look at their point of view. What could be their point of view? What's going on for them? Yeah. However, it has helped me enormously in my life because, you see, the thing is, I remember Jill Bolte Taylor, who's a very famous neuroscientist. I don't know if you know her story. She had a stroke. She was Time Magazine's one of the most important people of the year a few years ago. She had a stroke. She was a neuroscientist studying strokes, and she had a stroke.
Wow.
She came back from that with incredible research. And what she showed is that anger only lives in your body for about 72 seconds. So when you stay angry, it's because you're telling the story over and over again to yourself, which is victimizing yourself, right? So otherwise the anger just flows through your body and it's over. So if you're still angry, so if you're listening right now, you're still angry about something somebody did to you like 5 years ago, that's an active choice.
Yeah. You're doing something to prolong it.
Yes, yes. So we are definitely wanting to take the moment to feel the anger and then maybe look at what could be my part of this dance, which is what you like. What's my part of this dance? And how could I maybe be coming across to the other person? So if I call you up and I'm upset with you and I say, well, I'm upset you didn't do this, this, and this, and you said you were going to do this and this, and you get very volatile with me. I have to go, it would look like this. I'd go, wow, I really don't feel good about what happened. Okay, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think I came across a little too harsh? There could have been a softer way of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe Melissa's feeling right now that she's not appreciated for all the good things she does. And that would make sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I might come back for round 2 and say, you know, I just want you to know I love the work you do and the things you do.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this one thing, I do need you to address it or something like that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that's what I try to teach to in my work, because, and that's something I had to learn too. But when we hold on to, like, sometimes we get so caught up in our experience of anger and how we've been hurt. Like, let's say if I lash out in your example, it's sometimes we hold on so much on, I can't believe Melissa did that. I can't believe she lashed out at me, and then you might lash out at me, and then it becomes this big conflict. Right?
Yes.
And so we're both
Yes. Yes.
triggering each other.
Yes. Look at you, so brilliant.
And so what I really liked about what you said was that, you know, in that dialogue where then you question, you know, what was my role? It's like you're acknowledging that both experiences, not that one is right or wrong, because especially that's what I see all the time in conflict, is trying to prove who's right and wrong. And so what you did in that example was you just honored both experiences, like my experience and your experience, as both. You're just holding space for both, not saying one was right or one was wrong. You're
That's
just
so beautifully said, holding space for it. I love that.
Yeah, just holding space for both, and to see, okay, why did she have this reaction? And, you know, did I have a role in it? And what is my part that I can do? Not to ignore my feelings, because that's very important, but to hold, to see what's going on. And then you can use that to say, you know what, I like, it sounds like you got triggered or got upset with that. Is that your experience of what happened? You can even throw it back to me and say,
but you're a remarkable person, because you heard the concept and you took it in and you liked it.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't like it when I teach it to them, because they don't want to take responsibility. And when we come back from the break, we're going to talk about how your entire life can change if you take responsibility. Everything in your life will change if you take responsibility. Yeah. We'll be right back on Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats, and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Well, I must say, I am so excited to be back on the radio today. And this topic is getting me all tingly because I think that conflict is such a normal part of life. And I do want to, play a little game on this segment of the different ways people deal with conflict, because I have to say, and this is the opposite of taking responsibility. What people do by avoiding conflict leads to way more conflict in your life. So I definitely want to talk about that. But before that, I want to thank our sponsor, which makes this show possible, Spa Maneri. And if you are in the Montreal area and you want to get a massage, you've just had a conflict with someone, you need to, that's another good thing to do, isn't it? To go chill out.
Time out.
That's another thing they study in bodies, especially in men's body, physiologically speaking, when you are flooded is the term, when you're very angry, your neocortex, your thinking brain no longer works. You're in your limbic system, your old archaic part of your brain, fight or flight, you're going to kill someone. These are all the people on the street about to kill someone, or I was just at the shopping center, everyone's about to kill everyone. So you need to take some time out. A good thing to do is call up Spa Maneri. And if you mention Straight Talk with Sandra Reish, you get 15% off. So if you're in the Montreal area, 1-514-695-5040. I'm going to start the segment on, do you agree with me that if you're upset with someone and they want to avoid the topic and dismiss it, like, okay, I'm sorry. Okay. That's one of the ways. We can talk about the different ways people deal with it. Does that make you, because that makes me like go from 3 on 10 to a 10 on 10. What about you?
The same thing. Because if...
Let's move on. Let's move on.
Let's move on. What message, when you do that to me, what message are you indirectly sending to me?
That you're being ridiculous.
Okay.
And I don't want to hear your feelings. Because your feelings make me uncomfortable.
Which then I'll react as if my feelings don't matter and as if you don't care. So you're saying the right things. You're saying I'm sorry. You're saying okay, I got it. You're saying like your words are okay, but the problem is that what's your body language doing? And and the shortness of it is again sending me a message that I don't matter. And that's why both of us would react to 10 on 10, because now we're getting triggered.
Oh, now I'm really triggered. I'm really triggered.
I don't matter.
Right. And then I call that also the drive-by sorry. You ever hear the drive-by sorry? Like couples, I see this in my couples all the time in the office. They have a fight, they tell their husband or they tell their wife, I'm really upset about something. Oh, okay, sorry. Sorry, let's move along now. I don't know why I put an English accent on there, but it really is like that, the drive-by sorry. And that also doesn't work. And I find it's a mistake on the person who's angry to accept the drive-by sorry. Don't accept it.
No,
I don't accept it. I'm tough like that, though. I will not accept it.
If you do accept it, you're again sending a message that it's okay to treat me like this.
Right.
So that's one way we do it.
So what do you do, though? If the person is like, you're upset with me and I go, okay, Melissa, I got it. I'm sorry. What are you supposed to do?
Well, I would start by validating your feelings. I always start by that. So why do you think validation is important? To start with validating.
Brilliant question. So you mean if you're the person who's getting in trouble, you start by validating the other person's feelings.
So like, let's say you were saying, I'm sorry. And then I felt upset by that. So how do I start? Because if I go right away in terms of saying, well, that's not okay with me, and then I react, what type of reaction am I going to ignite in you?
So what would you say? I need to know what you would say.
I would validate you. So I'd be like, I understand that you're saying that you apologize.
Ah, okay, that's what you mean.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, so I would validate what you're saying.
Right, I understand first. You're saying you're sorry.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm not really feeling a lot of emotion in that sorry.
Yeah. And so
I'm not feeling understood.
Yeah, so you're saying sorry. I understand that you feel like you mean you're sorry and you're saying it, but for me it's not enough for me.
Okay.
Right? That I'm feeling triggered by...
But a lot of people at that point, though, Melissa, they don't know what you want. So they're like...
Well, that's what you have to ask.
Yeah, so then that's the next step.
Because I see
the
this
person
a lot.
Then they make, what do you want from my life? I said sorry.
Yeah.
I see that a lot too.
I know. And that's what I said is that a lot of times in my clients, we get into this trap of mind reading. He or she should know what I need. He or she should know what in those conflicts, like what he should or she should do.
Right.
And that gets really messy too. So I always say to try and ask for what you want. So in that sense.
Let's continue with this example. I love it.
Yeah.
So I was like, what do you want? Like, I don't understand. I said I was sorry. I'm sorry you don't feel it, but that's the best I got, Melissa.
So again, I would start by validating. I understand that you feel like that's the best that you got, but for me, I'm feeling really triggered. And what I need from you is a discussion or whatever we were arguing about. What I need from you is for you to be able to hear me and show that I matter to you and that this is important by having this conversation.
That's good.
So that we can resolve it. And that's the repair.
Right. So this is also, and I can see where this could turn into a part 2 show, because then that's so beautifully stated. And in a good relationship, the person at that point will soften and do it. But sometimes people will still be triggered and go, okay, so you want me to tweeze every word? Okay, really?
Here we go again.
Right. And that's where now, this is not today's show, but we've done shows on this before. We'll do it again, where you might need to take a boundary, put a boundary and say, you know what, this isn't working for me. When you're ready to have a talk with me, give me a call, type of thing, and walk away from it, right?
Yeah. I love that. And that's what, every time you talked about that inspired me to think of it like putting it in your parking lot, right? Like I said that before on a different show, is that you're putting this argument, or as if you're parking your car, you're leaving it in the parking lot, but you're going to return to it. That's the most important part
nicely said.
When you say that, okay, right now you're upset, I'm upset, this is not going anywhere, I'm going to take an hour to myself, and when you're ready to talk, please let me know. But the thing is, don't you agree that the person then, because sometimes you can say that, but then the person never comes back.
Well, hold on. It depends. Okay, it depends. Okay, let's make that clear.
Yeah.
So if somebody is feeling flooded in an argument and no longer can participate in the conversation, it is a really good skill. This is a couple therapy skill to say, I am feeling flooded right now. I'm going to need to take a break. I will be back in 10 minutes. It is on that person to 100% to come back in 10 minutes, or this is very, very not okay. Yeah. However, in this example where I was being dismissive of you and saying, well, what do you want from my life? It's really you at that point who's going to say, you know what, you're being dismissed, but you don't have to come back. You're asking the other person to come back when they're ready to be respectful to you. And until then, you're basically going, and as I would say, going and playing with your marbles by yourself. Yes. Because you can't see, okay, early in my earlier years in life, again, I hate conflict. So when it wouldn't go well, I wouldn't go and play with my marbles. I would continue on with the day with the person. Let's say it was my then boyfriend, now husband, let's just say. Yeah. And so we'd continue on because I wanted to have a nice day with him. Yeah. But that was disastrous. That does not work.
Why?
Because deep down inside, you're still quite upset. And plus, you've just taught somebody, without realizing it, that it's okay to disrespect you. And the one thing that's not okay in any relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's romantic, whether it's colleagues, whether it's work, whether it's child with parent, most important thing I can say on this show is respect is not negotiable. Respect is not negotiable. So I can't, even though I didn't want to have a conflict, darn it, I didn't want to have a conflict. If you're being disrespectful, we're in now, because until we can have a respectful discussion, both of us. Yeah. And that's another thing. A lot of our clients, we share clients, we talk a lot about, we have a lot of clients in common. And I know you teach your clients this too. Is in a conflict, is it okay to swear at someone and belittle someone? No, not okay.
No.
Right?
No, not okay. Yeah, because then that's the main thing that you're saying is when we're doing that, we're not respecting the person. So we could be angry and
we can keep saying we're very upset.
Yeah, we're very upset, and that's valid. Our feelings are feelings, and they're valid because they're ours. But to belittle someone or to say name call or swearing, it's not okay.
Eye rolling.
Yeah.
Did you know? And I think you do know this because I've talked about this recently, that eye rolling is a predictor of divorce. A very high predictor of divorce, scientifically proven. Wow. And the reason for that is that when you roll your eyes at someone, you're basically saying, you disgust me. That's the subtext. And you mentioned before, body language is much stronger than words.
A lot stronger.
I'm sorry, Sandra. I'm sorry, Melissa. With a body language that doesn't show any sorry.
I'm going to believe your body versus your words.
Of course, but that's human nature.
Yeah.
Important points. Okay, so that means that people need to learn skills on how to validate, because the other reason the other problem is people don't always get belittling. Sometimes they get very defensive.
Yeah.
And the reason they're getting defensive, and you know who you are, and it's normal because we all at heart want to feel like we're okay and we don't want to feel that we messed up. The reason we're getting defensive is because we're worried that we're being blamed.
Yeah.
And that's another piece of the puzzle, is that it's not about blame, is it?
No.
Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think that it's not, we get a reaction that, like you said, we might get really defensive. And it's just because, again, when we're hearing criticism, sometimes, again, it's hard to hear what the other person is saying. And then we could get really triggered. And at that point, when we get defensive, we're not really hearing what the person's saying. We're just hearing a subcontext message of, like, for example, I'm not good enough. And so then that could be triggering, and then I can respond in defensiveness or anger to because it's hard to hear what the person's saying. So that's why I love the validation piece, because a lot of people feel like if I validate them, it means that I'm agreeing with them. And that's not true at all. The reason why I always start off with validation is because I want them to hear what I'm going to say next. We all want to be heard. And so even if I'm upset, to say, look, I see you're getting defensive, and just even that validation piece can be enough to start the diffusing process.
You think that saying, I want to make sure I get this, so saying, I see you're getting defensive is validating?
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Oh, I find interesting. I'm not sure I would find that validating.
No? Yeah.
I want to know.
Well, because you're seeing what they're doing. You're seeing their point of view. You're saying, look, I see that you're defensive, but my feelings are important too, and I feel disrespectful right now. So that's the piece that I'm saying. You're holding both experiences together. You're holding their experience, and you're still holding on to yours and putting a boundary and making sure that your point is being heard. But in my experience, seeing that as validation just means that I see what you're doing. I see how you're responding to my comment, but it's still not okay.
Right.
How do you see it?
Well, for me, I mean, I guess we're all different. If somebody said to me, I see you're being defensive, that would feel like an attack. So I think it would be like, my validation might be like, based on the way you're responding, I think that you feel that I'm saying you're a bad friend, a bad husband, but I really, that is not what I'm saying. But I do need you to hear my feelings.
Yes.
Okay, because defensiveness is another predictor, by the way, of divorce. It's one of the four predictors. We can talk about that when we come back from the break. But I think that that's another skill which I was complimenting you on. You're very young and you already have this skill set. Now that takes something called ego strength that you have. And that's the sign of a strong person, by the way, is if you're a really strong person, someone can say something to you that they're upset with you, and you could just literally say to yourself, this isn't about me. So I can deal with this, because you have to take yourself out of the equation to be able to hear someone's anger. That's a very important tip, I think.
I love that. I love that piece.
Okay, we're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to definitely talk about an amazing group coming up that Melissa's going to be running. I keep forgetting to mention it. I definitely want to mention it. And we'll also continue to talk about some strategies you can do to take responsibility and look at the other person's side of the story that will help you change all your relationships for a great 2018. We'll be right back.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Tune in to the Voice America Variety channel on the Voice America Talk Radio Network. Voice America Variety broadcasts a diverse array of topics, reaching a global community. Our experts come from all walks of life, and the topics they discuss are everything from current events, arts and entertainment, leadership, parenting, relationships, self-improvement, career advice, and a variety of other topics. Check us out today. You're sure to find something of interest. Voice America Variety. Talk on today's hot topics.
Your life, your health, your network. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
We are back on Straight Talk with Sandra Reish, and every time I do a radio show with Melissa, I want to mention her groups that she does that are so amazing, and I always forget, so I'm not going to do that. It's a new year, it's a new me, I'm not going to be forgetful. People always ask me about you. I hear raves about you all the time. You are starting the year with a bang. You're running an anxiety group.
Yes.
I'm sure conflict's going to come up in that anxiety group.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about the group and tell us when it's going to run?
Yeah, so we're starting it on February 5th, and it's going to be 4 weeks. And we're tackling anxiety through different aspects. So one is going to be mindfulness techniques. Again, conflict resolution, because I love how you said at the beginning, when you're not expressing your anger, it's going to turn into a symptom, and we start to feel the anxiety symptoms, like maybe a pit in our stomach or a tightness in our chest. So we're definitely going to learn how to be express ourselves and learn assertiveness skills.
Oh, good.
Definitely when we're in crisis, like when this conflict or the anxiety gets into like a crisis state, and crisis means different for everyone. So it just means when it's like a high stressful period of what to do to help. Like when you said your fight or flight kicks in, what to do to really ground ourselves and come back into to not have that reaction.
That's great.
There's a lot of techniques. And what I like about it is very skills based.
Oh, yeah, we love skills based. So you said it's running as of February
5th. So that's the Monday, and it'll be for 4 weeks.
If people want more information about it, should they give you a call, or how?
Yeah, they could go to the website at www.helpforanxietydepression.com, or they can call 514-777-4530, and there's definitely more information that we can provide.
Well, that's pretty exciting, and I finally remembered to mention your group.
Thank
Yay.
you.
Okay, so moving along, I mean, this topic, I have to, again, thank you for bringing it up. We're getting a lot of nice feedback on Facebook. We're getting nice responses. We're getting a lot of texts saying how people are enjoying this topic, because I think we all have trouble with conflict, and I don't like conflict, so I understand that. So we started off with this idea of taking responsibility, and I want to tweak it a little bit and go into that, because I've tried to refine it over the years. And again, I don't recommend you do this when you're in your first stage of anger, because actually that would be a disservice to yourself, because it's not my job to argue your case when I'm in anger. No. However, let's take a marriage or a relationship. And so you had a situation over the holidays. I'm sure you did. I'm sure I did. I know I did. And your partner upset you or something happened and you feel angry. So you try to do your conflict resolution, and if it goes well, that's great. But sometimes there's time that passes until things are resolved. So you're sitting in your bed and you're churning and you're angry and you're feeling anxious. It's an awful feeling. So step one, in my opinion, and I would put this out there, is to validate yourself. Because don't validate someone else before you validate yourself, right?
Because then that would be sending a message that you're not important, and we'd be putting somebody else's feelings ahead of ours.
Which is codependency. Our next show. Right. So, okay. So I'm validating myself, and that would sound like what? What would I be saying to myself, Melissa?
So I would definitely identify what emotion you're feeling, because I always say you can't fix a roof that's leaking if you don't know it's leaking. So you're upset, but if you don't identify why you're what the emotion is, either it's hurt, anger, sadness, if you're not identifying those, how can you communicate them, A, to whoever you're in an argument with, and B, how do we fix something if we don't know what we're working with?
Okay.
So one is for me, that would be labeling. What about you? How would you?
No, I think that's exactly right. I would feel the emotion, and then what we have to be careful about is it's almost like people go two different ways. One way is they go like, yeah, that was horrible. And that's very dangerous. And the other way is kind of like dismissing your emotion and going, well, I shouldn't be so sensitive.
Yes.
And that's very dangerous too.
Yeah, very.
Yeah. So the validation would sound like, it's understandable that this hurt my feelings. It's understandable that I'm upset about this, and I'm here for you.
And I love how you say that, because we don't want to go into then feeling I'm upset and then start to ruminate and have all these critical thoughts as if he or she doesn't care about me and they don't love me or they're doing this. We make interpretations. And we start to mind.
Oh my gosh.
And then that gets really messy. So I love how you said, that I'm here for you. These are my feelings, and it's understandable why I would feel this way.
Yeah. But I like what you're saying too, because that's part of my step two. So step one is I understand why I'm feeling this way, and I'm here for you. That really is me not getting weird on myself, but it's almost like we teach clients all the time that part of the job is there's a child inside of us and there's a parent inside of us, and we need to parent ourselves sometimes. So when a child is scared, you don't say, get over it. At least we hope you don't. We say, we understand it. Tell me more. What's going on? And it's understandable that you'd be afraid. We don't feed the fear.
No.
And we don't make up a story and say, you're right, there's monsters everywhere.
Yeah. But I think that would be very powerful. Like for me, that I've been taught that my feelings are not important. For me to say I'm here, that's what I'm, like you said, I'm reparenting myself to say I'm choosing me. I'm choosing these feelings.
That's beautiful. So then I would go to step two.
What's
so step two is, now that I've, and sometimes I would journal this personally. I often do, especially if I'm really triggered. And step two, and I teach my couples this, and they hate it, but they love it. They come back to my retreats for this one, is, can you argue your partner's case? That's a really hard exercise to do. Can you argue their case? But it's kind of a fun one to do when you think about it, is how could you, or if not your partner, your friend or your colleague, could you argue their case? Like, you think of something like someone cut you off in traffic even. Could you argue their case? Like, imagine a scenario where they were had to get to the hospital or something. Could you argue the case from the other person's point of view? Which definitely starts to bring the emotions down. Doesn't take away from your feelings. No. But it's to be careful about the story. And when you said that, the reason I loved when you said that, is that the story, this is one of my newest revelations, is the story is your wound. The story is your wound, and your wound is going to try to mess with you. It's going to say the person did this on purpose to hurt you, and they don't care about you. That's your wound talking. And your inner child, which is the part we want to nurture, is just going to say, this is what I need. Please, can you get me this? And getting this might be sitting down with your partner and saying, when you talk this way or when you're dismissive this way, it feels really awful for me. And sometimes even offering them the solution, because sometimes they don't know. Say, would you be able to blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Now, women will say, I shouldn't have to tell my partner that, right? Do you hear that in your office?
Yeah, that's what we were saying before. That
Yeah.
like, he or she should know what I need or want. Right?
But that's off, isn't it?
It's very off because they might know what works for them, but
Right.
that doesn't necessarily work for us.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you fall in love, you tend to fall in love with people with different attachment styles, which is a whole other show. So, for example, my husband is an avoidant attachment style. So what he would need during an argument would be to be left alone.
Space,
So
yeah.
what do you think he does when I'm upset? He leaves me alone, which is the worst thing because I am not an avoidance. So therefore, to leave me alone is like devastating. So I have to say, like, I need you to come talk to me. I need a hug, right? Okay, but you have to be able to ask for it.
You have to ask for it. And what I also loved about the point that you made was that to look at the other person's perspective. And that's kind of like what I do is I say, okay, right now I'm seeing it one way. What's at least 3 other ways to see this situation?
Ooh.
Yeah, so-
the Henley approach. 3 other ways?
3 other ways. 3. And I
You do that?
3 other ways.
Okay, could you please
3
show
other
us
ways.
how you do that?
So what's an
I
example?
like this.
What's an example?
I don't know. When's the last time you got upset with someone?
Okay, so definitely over the holidays, like you said, got into an argument with one of my best friends.
Okay, that happens.
And so, yes, got into an argument. And so I validated like exactly the steps that you did, validated my feelings, but then said, is there 3 other ways that I can look at this situation? So 1, I can see that she's definitely going through a hard time. She recently lost her brother. He died. And so definitely recognizing it doesn't make it okay. It's just recognizing,
But she,
that,
she might be more reactive and so on and so forth.
yeah, 2, that it's definitely,
Is she listening to the show, by the way?
maybe.
Okay.
But it's good. We resolved it,
Yeah.
and definitely we feel
Well,
a lot stronger.
she'll know the effort you put in. What was the second way?
Yeah, definitely stronger. So definitely when we were at a party, so alcohol was involved.
So
right?
that was
that's
2, that alcohol
right?
plays a role.
Alcohol plays a role because that lowers our inhibition
Which is
and
true.
makes us more sensitive and so more reactive. So that's going to happen. And 3, definitely that there was definitely that it was loud too at the place that we were and that she's going through her experience and that at that time she couldn't hear what I had to say too. So I tried to give 3 explanations as to it doesn't mean that I say it's okay and let go of the conversation, but at least I'm not getting as triggered. Like you said, you're diffusing the situation so that you can deal with it more in your rational mind instead of your emotions controlling the show.
This really is your thing, right? This 3 different ways to look at the situation. We have to coin this as the Henley manifesto or something. Like, this is really good. This is your thing?
Well, that's
You
what I
came
do.
up with this?
That's what I
3
do.
things.
3
You make
things.
yourself work hard.
3 things.
They're very lucky to
But
have you.
it is a concept that has been there, right? Like you're saying, trying to look at the other
Yeah,
person's
but I really like
perspective.
that. I really
But
like
I
that.
the 3 other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, like, maybe it's one of my New Year's resolutions also, and I'll put it out there, therefore, because we always teach what we need to learn the most. And I definitely think this is one of the things I'm really working on, is that when we're upset with people, we're in judgment. And the thing is, none of us like to be judged. So I'm really trying to ask people and myself to work on judgment, because judgment is negatively correlated with happiness. The more you judge, the less happy you are. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And so, when you're like, he was so insensitive or she was so, you're in judgment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And is that thought helpful?
No.
No.
That's another great strategy. Is this helpful? Is this going to make me happier? And that's another great saying. Do I want to be right or do I want to be happy?
Yeah.
Okay, so how do we navigate this? And I also do think that, people are listening, I want to put this out there, you have to choose your battles.
Yeah.
I don't fight every fight that I'm upset about with my partner or with anyone else.
Yeah.
I fight the ones that are important to fight.
Yeah. Well, this is another thing I say to myself.
What's that?
I say this with my boyfriend. Is this something he needs to hear or is this something I need to say?
Oh.
Because if it's something he needs to hear, then I say it. Like you said, the conflict, and that's where we can start the steps, like validate my feelings, then express myself, then be able to ask for what I need, right?
Yeah.
And come up with some sort of compromise. Then, and if a boundary needs to be needed. Or if it's something I just need to say, and it's not necessarily he needs to hear, like you said, pick your battles, then I can talk to other people. So I can journal it, I can vent with my friends. I can use another outlet to because it's just something I need to get off my chest or talk to somebody else.
Well, that made me think. We're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about things you should not say in conflict. Here's one. I spoke to 100 friends and they all agree with me.
Oh.
Those kinds of
or
things.
my therapist says.
Oh God, very bad. Okay, we're going to definitely, there's so much more to talk about. We'll be right back on Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Opinions, options, answers. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Your life, your health, your network. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
We are back talking about conflict in this 2018, arguing how you deal with it. I promised before the break we talk about, like, really short, quickly, because we have something else we want to talk about, just to wrap this all up. But what are things you should not say during an argument? Why is it so bad to say, well, I told 10 of my friends the story and they all thought you were wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Bad?
Why is it so bad? Because it means absolutely nothing. I could tell 100 of my friends and they think you're wrong. So it has no validity whatsoever. Yeah. And in my opinion, it's an extremely, and I do underline, extremely weak argument. Yeah. You shouldn't need other people to, you feel it was hurtful, and that's enough. You don't need 100 people to agree with you. And as a matter of fact, I consider it quite disrespectful to go discuss our business with 100 other people. Mm-hmm. Plus, when you tell a story to people, you bias people.
Yeah, that's
you bias people.
That's their bias.
Yeah,
right?
You tell the story. Well, I was walking down the street and Melissa came up to me and she started attacking me. You don't tell the story objectively.
No,
so
you say your side.
That's right. And there's two sides to every story.
Always two
What
sides.
else, Melissa? What other bad things should people not say during arguments that people say?
Well, I think definitely when I said I think that my therapist ties into that. Right?
Yeah.
Because again, yes, the therapist is...
Yeah, that's a tough one, too.
That's a tough one, because yes, the therapist is biased, but using that as ammo, like you said, because your feelings are valid, and you're using that as kind of a backup But you don't need that. Your feelings are just as important. And the person's not talking to the therapist, the person's talking to you. Right?
So, it's a good segue to say that is that, and I'm going to ask you in a minute, so think about this, why some people are better at this than others and why people struggle. Because really what we're talking about is the best thing to say, and a lot of top therapists in the world talk about, is when someone's upset, instead of trying to get away or dismiss it, to say, tell me more. You seem really upset. Tell me more. Why are you so upset? Now, most people listening to that will say, that's the last thing I want, is to be hear more. But that's actually the best thing you could say to someone. So even if you're, at the local store and somebody gets upset with you, you seem really upset. Like, can you tell me more? What did I do that upset you so much?
Yeah, it's trying to just be curious, because we don't have all the information yet. All we know is they're upset, and if we react based on their upset, now we're, like we talked about before, now we're both triggering each other.
Hot potato back and forth.
Hot potatoes. So now we're just trying to be curious about, okay, what about this is triggering? What about the other person? Why are they upset? Let's be a detective. Let's be curious.
So how come? It seems so logical, and it really does work.
Yeah.
And we spend our careers teaching people this stuff because it is very hard for people to do this.
Yeah.
So what determines whether someone can do this or someone cannot?
Yeah. And in DBT, which is dialectical behavioral therapy, they suggest that there's 3 different types of minds. So one, we have the rational mind, which is the really rational person.
Which is difficult during an argument.
Which is very difficult. I've had an argument with a rational person, and I can't because I'm very emotional.
And emotions are not rational by definition, so that doesn't work.
No, it's like, well, don't be scared. Okay, great, thanks.
Yeah.
Nothing to be scared of. Okay, thanks. Haven't thought of that.
Yeah.
Right? And so, we don't want to be at that end of the extreme where we're completely rational and not considering any emotions. And then we have the other side where we're very emotional. So our emotional mind takes over. Mm-hmm. And so now our emotions are running the show. We're not thinking, we're not making proper decisions, we're not acting logical. So that's why sometimes it's hard for people to really take a step back, because now either they're flooded and now anxious and now reacting, they're more reactive versus taking a step back and saying, okay, how do I want to handle the situation in a calm way, in an assertive way?
Right. So I still want to know, how does someone learn it?
Well, definitely if you're feeling flooded, right? Like this is the same techniques for anxiety, right? If you're feeling really flooded, and as soon as your body will tell you, as soon as you get that reaction, right? Like your body's sending you a signal to say, whoa, something's off, right? And usually, and in my experience in the past, I didn't take the time to figure out what that reaction was. I just automatically lashed out and react and yelled.
So how'd you learn?
So definitely learning the anxiety techniques. Like if I know that I'm a reactive person, and if I know I'm going to lash out, definitely to learn how to take a step back. So whether that's doing any breathing, whether that's checking in with myself.
That's why you're running an anxiety group.
That's why I'm running
100%. So it's a skill.
It's a skill. And again, no one taught us this.
No, it's like it's like asking yourself to be a bodybuilder without like lifting a weight.
Yeah, I love that analogy.
You have to learn how to do it. And it takes a certain amount of steadiness to put yourself aside, take yourself aside. A person's getting really mad at you. We have an advantage because as therapists, we have to know how to do this, because clients do come in sometimes and say, I'm really angry at you. Yeah. And we're not allowed to like start like dancing with them.
No.
Dancing an argument. So we got to be able to, I know there's therapists who like blow this, because even therapists have trouble with this. Yeah. But it's really, like you said, you do your mindfulness exercises. Like I take a deep breath. Mm-hmm. I literally do the same breathing I teach people in my office, and it works.
It works.
It works. Yeah. Okay. So it's, really, if somebody wants to strengthen that muscle, they could take a group, they could take a therapy session. Another thing I think they could do that we could add to the equation is to remind themselves that people's feelings are not really that much about you. Yeah. I've often on this show told this story, and I'm going to tell it again. Mm-hmm. I tell it almost at every workshop I ever give. Mm-hmm. I have a very good friend of mine. I don't know if you know the story. I think you do.
I do?
Yeah. I have a very good friend of mine. She actually now works for the center. Mm-hmm. And she called me a few years ago, and there was a message on my answering machine. There's a point to the story. And she said, on my machine, there was my message. She said, left me a message saying, I just want to warn you, Sandra, you sound really down on your message. So I think you should change your message machine. And so I heard the message and okay. And about a week later, she called back and she goes, "Oh, I'm so glad you changed the message. You sound so much better."
You didn't change it.
I didn't change the message. So that is a great metaphor. She loves that story too. That's a great metaphor, is that people's feelings say more about them than it does about you. So isn't that something we can use when someone's upset, that it's not about me?
No.
I may have reminded them of something, but it's not fully about me.
It's not, because now you become a projection of past figures.
That's right. So that's a good way to not take it so personally, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way of detaching a bit, just to see if you're emotional, like me, to just take it only takes a couple seconds to create a space out of my short fuse that I had in the past, but it only takes a second, all we need is a second just to create some sort of space for me to detach myself so I can look at it and then introduce my more rational side to the situation. But both are important, your emotions and your rational side.
Absolutely. And emotions are always valid. Let's not forget that. Always, always, always.
Always, because they might be upset, but it's also my responsibility of how I respond to them.
You're amazing, Melissa Hindley. You really are. You're amazing. You really are. And
I learned from them.
And this discussion, I learned so much too. So I want to thank you so much for coming back on Straight Talk. I am sure people are going to want to reach you. How do they find you?
Yeah, so you can call 514-777-4530. And if you're interested, like I said, there's that website of www.helpforanxietydepression.com.
That's all the time we have today. So thank you so much for coming on Straight Talk, Melissa.
Thank you.
I'd also like to thank again Spa Munari for helping to make this show possible. And especially a big thanks to all our listeners for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish week after week. It is so appreciated. And you're starting to write comments. We love that. Thank you. And I love the ideas for shows, and we're doing them all. So I'd like to invite you all to come back next week. And if you're interested in our retreats or therapy or anything that was mentioned on this show, you can check out helpforanxietydepression.com. You can also go on straighttalksandrareish.com and add /radio gifts to receive all sorts of free gifts from some of my guests that come on the show. And also check out the Facebook page, Straight Talk Sandra Reish. As well. You can leave a question there for Melissa or myself, and don't forget to like the page. You can hear this and any prior show as a podcast on my website, straighttalksandrareish.com, on the podcast app of your iPhone, and on iTunes under Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. And you can drop Melissa, myself, a comment or a question anytime at info@helpforanxietydepression.com. If you're a professional and you're looking for keynote speakers or training on anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, or living a purposeful life, remember that we're your source for evidence-based practice and education. My name is Sandra Reish, and I promise I'll help you learn to live your best life again next Thursday, same time, same channel. In the meanwhile, this is Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Keep your eyes on the stars.
Thank you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we'll tune in again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Now, go live your best life.